Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bleeding Metal podcast. My name is Pia, she, her, and I'm also here as always with...
Hi, I'm Kiki, she, her.
And today we have a guest from the band The HELLFREAKS. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, here is Sue from The HELLFREAKS, she, her. And yeah, I'm the lead singer of the Hungarian punk metal band, The HELLFREAKS.
Thank you for being here. Your band has just released an album, Pitch Black Sunset.
Exactly.
How have the responses been so far?
Oh, amazing. They are really good, you know. We're really the kind of band who not really care about when we are writing the songs, how it will resonate with our audience. But actually we are doing something pretty risky because we mix a lot of different elements. So if we would worry about it when we are writing, I guess we would go crazy. But actually, when it was finished, I started to worry. Of course, after that, I started to worry. So, and it took ages till the material was released because we finished it last summer in June, something around June. So, and it took almost like 10 months till it was out. It was a difficult time. So I felt like super relieved when it was out. It's crazy what a good feedback we got from people, from old fans, from new fans. They really appreciate our crazy mixture of music. So I'm very happy how it turned out.
Yeah, that's also the topic we wanted to talk about, and that fits perfectly because we thought about, let's make an episode about music styles and how you can mix them and writing music without any limitations.
Yeah, well, our band fits to that category, I guess so.
Yes, and I also, when you released your album, I posted on Instagram that this band knows no genres, and you responded, "We do, but we don't care."
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much our mindset. You know, we are doing this since ages. I mean, literally, we started 14 years ago. I was almost a teenager or a young adult, more teenager. Definitely a teenager in my head when we started this band, and. You know, a lot of things changed with the time. I changed a lot with the time, luckily. But actually, we had a moment in 2014 when the band split up, and I really thought that this is the end. And of course, there are many personal reasons as well. But one of the main reasons was that we started in a genre. We started with psychobilly music back then, and that genre is super fun, but it's very limited. You know, it's very limited what you can do musical wise. It's very limited what you can do like lyric wise. And I do understand and I do accept that for some people or for some artists, they don't really want to change because they just enjoy what they are doing. But I'm the kind of person who goes crazy if I am not in a type of changement. I don't know if you understand this. So if I have to repeat myself, I feel like that I'm wasting my time. And so in 2014, I felt like I just did the best what I can do in that genre. And I have so many new ideas, and I want to, you know, get better as a vocalist, and I want to learn stuff, and I want to challenge myself. And it wasn't possible if you stuck to that one genre. And and that led actually to a split up as a band. And when we decided to continue, which was just because we got invited to a festival in the USA, which was a huge thing for us as a Hungarian band. But when we decided to continue, actually the lead line of that was that, okay, we're going to fix everything that we fucked up in the past. And one of this was that doesn't matter what kind of idea we have in the songwriting process, if we like it, we will not care about if it fits to the genre or not. And that gave us like a huge, freedom as an artist. And that's actually still the mindset. Like if it's not fitting in any genre, who cares? If we like it, we will use it and we will play around with it. And that led to such a type of, such a natural process of songwriting that for me, whatever we do, it is absolutely not strange or weird, or I don't know. I'm actually always super surprised that people highlight us as a band who mix genres so in such a wild way. While there are bands out like Electric Cowboy and bands like, I don't know, I mean, just Spirit Box or just Ginger, or I don't know, there are so many bands out who mixes crazy different genres, and it is totally cool and amazing. And those genres are way more different. I mean, mixing German Schlager with metal music, that's a weird combination for me. I think it's awesome, but I think that's a weird combination. And I think compared to that, mixing metal music with punk music, that seems quite natural to me, but I know people are not reacting like it would be something natural. So maybe I'm a kind of weirdo. Who knows?
Maybe that's the reason right there, or the answer right there, that punk and metal are so close to each other that it's more surprising than when people actually go to extremes and do super crossovers that would be like more, that stand out more.
I mean, I guess so, but even it's weird, right? I mean, for me, I grew up with underground rock and roll music. I totally had my punk phase. I had my hardcore phase. I had my rockabilly. I mean, I think, the teenage years were like that. There were always a couple of years where only just one genre was cool and everything else sucks. I had, of course, all these phases. And when I grew up, I realized that, actually all of them are super cool. But I totally believe that all of these underground rock and roll genres have the same root. Because whenever I talked with any person of the scene, it always turns out that they found to the community and they found to those music because they felt like they don't fit into the line. They want to live the life on their own terms. They have their questions. They don't accept everything how it is. And actually, people from those in those scenes, doesn't matter if it's hardcore music or punk music or metal music, they have such a similar mindset, They are such free thinkers, if I can say it like that. So I totally see that they are absolutely united. And that's why for me, it's totally naturally to mix these things. I mean, I don't see any good reason to keep boundaries or to keep genres pure, especially not in years like this, where we have so many awesome bands all around the world. And like, it doesn't really matter where you live anymore because you have Spotify. You can listen like super underground bands from the other side of the world. So I would have no idea how to create something new or something interesting if I would not allow to myself to grab directly into other genres and to force them together and see what happens.
Yes, to me, it also feels natural to mix punk and metal because I also started with listening to punk bands and then the music got heavier and heavier.
I'm not saying that I didn't have my moments when I have had like my doubts if we are not our own biggest enemies to stay to that, to that in that line or that lane to do whatever we want to do in music, because sometimes it makes it really difficult for us because genres are still like, I don't know how I can say it. It's still helping people to find their right music. Yeah. And I know that whenever I'm saying like, okay, look, we are kind of post-hardcore band with punk and metal elements, everyone looks like, what? And then first I have to tell them, okay, you know what, let's just let's listen to a song and then you're gonna get it. So it's often not that easy. But I absolutely believe with all my heart that if we don't dare to do these things, then nothing new can happen and nothing interesting can be created. So I think it is just part of the process to be sometimes afraid like shit.
Do you also have problems with getting gigs as a support band, or
Oh, it's difficult. Yeah, it is difficult because of course when they know us and of course when they saw us live once, then it gets easier because they see the vibe, and I think the vibe is quite clear with the HELLFREAKS. But when they are looking for like a very for example, if they have a very specific type of festival, let's say metal festival, it is really difficult for us to get in, because if they are not in the right mood and if they just hear more the punk vibe than the metal vibe, then they will think that, oh, it's not fitting because it's not metal. And then on the other other side, the same thing can happen. Oh, it's not punk enough, So it is, that part is actually not easy. And this is the tricky part and the difficult part. But what should I do? Like, should we change ourselves just to get on a lineup? I think that's exactly what mainstream is about, that they change their self to fit into to be a good product. Yeah, to be a good product so that they can sell you. So no, this is underground music, and I really appreciate it if people understand it and if people know us and if people want to see us live. That's amazing. But if we have to do it on the hard way, then we're going to do it on a hard way.
You're doing punk metal music, so I also think you don't do that for money or for earning a lot of money with that. So
no.
So yeah, why change anything just to get on a lineup when you do it for your own creativity, for yourself, and you don't do it for earning money with it or for pleasing anyone else? So
yeah, and I mean, for me, the core of underground music is always honesty. I think you can feel it so much if a band is honest or if it's not honest. And I really stick to that. And I know that if I would change that, it wouldn't be honest, And actually, the HELLFREAKS is a band. It's not just about me. So I have 3 guys in my back who think even more weird. In that case, they have like even more crazy ideas than I have. So the band is, I'm just let's say the mouth for the band who is speaking, but actually it's a kind of community, So it is 4 different elements, how they can work with each other, and it's all about how these elements end up in the end. So even though if I would say, okay, from now on I want to do, I don't know, metal music, I wouldn't have the 3 guys in my back to do pure metal music. It's not possible.
How does songwriting work in your band?
Well, we had a long way till we found out what really works for us. Basically, we have a kind of, I like to call him like the head of songwriter. It's our bass player, Gobi. He writes, I would say he writes the music, almost the whole music, because he can play all the instruments. And so he always lays down, let's say, the bass of a song. And we always started with instrumental part, and then of course the rest of the guys, they put in their spice to the music, but actually it's always the music that we start first with, and after that I start to figure out first the vocal melody, and only at the end I write the lyrics for it. And we record everything here at home. Like, I live in a quite small flat. But the flat is in a super old house. So I had a room. It's like a 2 square meter room, which was a food storage room. Mm-hmm. And we changed it to a vocal booth. So actually I can, it's amazing. I can,
Cool.
I can sing there and scream there in the middle of the night. And that was, for me, that was such a game changer. Since I have that, I can like practice whenever I'm in the mood and whenever I have time. And we recorded the same place for our practice, and it makes a huge difference because there are just on one day I'm like feeling the vibe and I'm good and I know that I can do it. And then there are other days that doesn't matter how hard I try, it's just a piece of shit, and then I can say like, okay, you know what, just delete the whole session. Okay, thank you. and I don't have to be afraid about the money we lose because of renting a studio or stuff like that.
Right, that's super practical.
We have to. I like to say that we are a very optimized band. We're here for a long time and we made a lot of mistakes and we learned from them and we know what really works for us and what doesn't work for us. So that was a real big game changer for us, like being able to record vocals here at home, and that Gobby took over the songwriting part. This is also like a very core element of the band.
When I listened to Pitch Black Sunset, I also thought, wow, they mix a lot of genres, but the songs still fit together very well. So how did you choose which songs will be on the album, and also how the track list should be?
Everyone is so disappointed when they ask that, because they think that we have a concept or something like that. But actually it's really not like that. It's always it's like taking a header into the water and then see what happens. So actually we just start to write the songs, and when we are in the songwriting process, and I already know that I'm going to be the one who has to talk about the album for interviews, I start to back to the karma that there will be a concept at the end. And it was actually like that with Pitch Black Sunset. So we wrote the songs step by step. Often a song goes directly into the bin. We know that when it's finished, and then when we listen to it, and there is just not that's something we learn to say goodbye to songs. So that's how it is. There were a couple of songs like that, and the order of the songs were put together by Gobby, but simply because he was also managing like the pre-production, and also he had a big part in the mixing, so he had the overall view was in his hand. And but to have a concept, also lyric-wise, which is even more spooky actually, also lyric-wise, I only saw that there is a concept when everything was ready and when I had the chance to make a step back and look what we've done. Because, for me personally, when I am in the middle of the songwriting process, I'm not able to have a kind of overview. I'm always like in this little piece of elements, and I'm always like actually stucking into this piece of elements. And only when everything was finished and I took a step back, I was like kind of impressed of ourselves that naturally we had a concept for the album, that naturally I see that all these songs were about the same topics, that they belong together. And but it's always like that with us. We are really bad when it comes to album writing to have any concept. It's like I'm always fascinated by all the artists who are able to have a clear concept, a clear mindset when they are writing. And it's amazing. I don't know. I'm just like, we are doing this really just whatever lyric-wise, whatever I have stuck in my head, stuck in my heart, stuck on my soul, and I just write it out of myself. And of course, they're always, like a scan of that period of life. I think it would be also very naturally if they wouldn't have to do anything with each other, but somehow they belong together.
And what turned out to be the theme for this album, for Pitch Black Sunset?
So actually, it's a very dark album. It's a deep dive into the darkest pits in my soul, but they are all about the opposites of old generation and new generation, opposites of Western and Eastern culture, opposite like life and death, opposite of hope and despair. That's also why we choose that album cover with the sunflower, which is representing hope and light, but it's stuck in the middle of a very dark room, surrounded by darkness. And that's also what the lyrics are about. They are really taking these different type of opposite and going like, I'm always like imagined like there would be a canyon, those two sides of it, standing on each side, and actually we are just jumping in between two of them and like checking out what's in that very deep canyon and what is really worth it at the end or not. Because we started to write the album back in COVID, and it is not a COVID album because I always thought like there's nothing new I can say about COVID, so we will not talk about it. But yeah, I started to write it when COVID was still active, when just in our neighbor country the war started, when here in Hungary, like the inflation is crazy high, like it amazingly high right now. Just the food has a 50% of inflation, which is a lot. People are having a hard time in my country, and especially around my country. And of course, because of that, you start to kind of make self-reflection, to see because you had really like fears of what's going to happen tomorrow. Will we have, because of the inflation, there are real fears, but also because of COVID, we realized how quickly everything that really matters can disappear like this, So, so for me, that was a period when I really started to think about what is important to me, what is really important to me, what are my real fears, what is not realistic fear. And this was what led me to write the lyrics, which I know they ended up quite dark, but that was always my thing. Like, I am not really good in writing happy lyrics. It's not my muse to write about happiness. Never was, never will be, I guess so. I always liked the dark side, at least lyric wise.
Yes.
Yeah, I had the same thoughts when the war started. I was like, what am I going to do when it comes to Germany? And I decided very quickly, because I have a little child, that I would take my child and go as far away as I could.
Yeah.
Because I also don't have any skills that would help my country or any army in this world to maybe win the war or whatever.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be useful anyways. So the best thing for me would be going somewhere else.
For me, what I think what like manifested the biggest fear is that how less control we have about so many things. I mean, to be honest, like people in Ukraine, how many control did they really had? No, they had they had absolutely no control.
And they trained since 2014, I think, at least. So they prepared themselves for the situation.
Yeah, but I think
as good as possible. But as you just said, you can't. You just can't do that. You can't prepare for that situation.
And you don't want to get prepared for that situation, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And also, like, I mean, the same was with COVID. I personally, I was never, I mean, it sounds, okay, I was in a lucky situation because in my surroundings, no one got really seriously ill. I just have something who isn't that close to me who unfortunately passed away because of COVID. But I still know that I belong to the lucky ones because my family and I was okay all the time. So I wasn't really afraid about COVID itself, but I was afraid about like, wow, it happens like from one week to the other, everything's changed. Like, actually my husband had absolutely no income because of that. So it was so unexpected, I never thought that we're going to go through times like that. And even though you know that this can happen, you don't believe it as long as it doesn't happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true.
That is, I guess, not even wanting to stay optimistic that tragedies like that or, emergencies like that will happen. But at the same time, it's probably a mechanism of our brain to keep us calm and just in the hope that everything will be fine, that our future is safe, right? We just don't want to think about that, not because we want to live in denial intentionally, but because we need to feel safe wherever we are.
Yeah, actually, like also one of our songs, it's actually the name-giving song of the album in short form PBSS. that song is about one of my own personal big fear, which is the fear of losing my loved ones. Like I'm very afraid of death, not about my own death, about the death of my loved ones. And I know that, I mean, it was so funny because it often keeps me awake and I cannot sleep because of that. And because of that, I'm always reading when I go to sleep. I'm always reading German fantasy books, just a fun fact.
Cool.
To keep me calm. And I know that since I wrote the song and I could speak a lot about it, I just realized that so many people have the same issue. I thought that this is like something unusual, but so many people have the same issue. And I think that especially everything that happened just around us in the last few years, it made these type of fears just bigger. And it's exactly the same topic, that we know that we're going to have to face death in different forms. We know that's a creepy thing to say, but if we are lucky, we will face a lot of death, because it means that we are getting old, but we will lose a lot of people that we really love. We never talk about this because we don't want to talk about this, because it freaks you out. Of course, it freaks you out. But yes, this album, even it's a short album, I talked about a lot of things like that, like kind of no-go topics that, or actually isn't a no-go topic. It's just topics that you normally avoid.
True. And maybe also because our parents didn't face a really bad situation like our grandparents with World War II. So we don't have this from our nearest ancestors as well. The only people who were able to talk about war were very, very old people. So it is so far away from us, or it has been so far away from us.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know how what kind of experience you had, but my only grandparent I know was my grandma, because all of my other grandparents died earlier, and she get the Second World War very hard. It hit her very hard, and the thing is that we could never talk about it. She was so traumatized that we could never talk about it. So it's even those generation, they were understandably not really ready to talk about these things,
Can we take a second to talk about that?
Sure.
Sure.
Because I think you were mentioning before as well on the topic of death. I consider myself death positive. It's
now I'm curious.
It is a thing. I love it. It is a movement, especially in the US, among people in the funerary industry. They advocate for awareness and also change towards more sustainability from the funerary industry, more sustainable practices, more natural burials and cremations and all of that stuff, with less usage of chemicals that are bad for the earth and all of that. But that includes also, because it is part of their jobs, to talk more about what death means and what losing a person means. And I will try to link in the episode description a YouTuber that I used to follow a lot, not so much recently, but she owns a funerary home in California, I think, and she used to do a lot of YouTube videos about all of the practices, not only in terms of the burial itself, but also in terms of the taking care of the person who has just passed. Like in some cultures, that people keep the corpse of the recently deceased at home and take care of it themselves and do all of the cleaning and all of that. And that is very helpful for their mental health as well, because these physical action and these rituals help with the processing of the loss and the saying farewell and goodbye to the person that you just lost, right? So I think in making the topic a taboo, we're actually just damaging ourselves and becoming obstacles in our own process of growth, of letting go of this person, of saying goodbye to this person, of of processing the loss and the grief that we need to go through when a person passes away. So I think that I personally believe that death is just as important part of life as birth, and it should be regarded as the same value, and also celebrated like that. And of course, I'm also very grateful for each and every day that I am alive and that the people I love are alive. And I haven't personally lost two close relatives, but I know that it makes things a little, maybe not easier, but it gives me a little perspective to think about it like that.
I totally agree with you, because it is like every topic. Like, if you don't talk about it, if you demonize it, it grows the fear in you. And it's such a funny thing. Now I'm not saying that I'm switching the topic, but now I'm opening another topic, which is called religion. It is like, so I don't have any religion. I don't believe in God. I don't think that's now very surprising. But I always said, like, that that's maybe not the right word, but I'm kinda jealous to those people who actually believe in God, because they have a good answer for what happens after life, after death, or actually after life. That's fine. They have their own answer, and they have their own vision and their own hope. And I think for them it's easier to accept these things, because they say that this was God's will. Maybe you don't understand why it was His will, but you just accept that. But for people like someone like me who don't believe in God, there is nothing, there are just questions and questions and questions, and especially that I'm very like rational, I'm like, this is so unfair. Why did it happen to that person? Why did it not happen to? So and I really think that if someone belongs to a religion, they have an answer for that. But if you don't, it shouldn't mean that you have like less value or something like that. You should find your answers as well, but you cannot if we're not talking about it. So I absolutely agree with you that it's nothing that you talk about. And I mean, how this is also like such a weird conversation, but like, who is the one who sits down with their parents on a sunny Sunday afternoon and asks them in the natural way, like, okay, what should I do when you all die? You don't do that, because like, you do that. Okay, you're German. I mean, maybe that's right.
but I wanted to add
it's not a German thing. No,
I agree with everything you said, and that's the emotional side of things. But there are also so many other things that you have to organize when someone dies. What happens? You need a funeral. Maybe you have to decide if a person should be kept alive by medicine or not. Maybe there is money involved, and you have to take care of all these, what the person leaves behind and stuff like that. And my father and we talked about that very detailed, and he also has a folder. There is everything written in what has to be done when he dies. But
that's very German. So organized. Even the death is organized.
Yes. But even here, so many people don't do that. And when I tell this, other people, they are like, oh, how can you talk about a topic like that? And how do you think about what happens with all the stuff of your father when he dies? How can you even think about things like this? So many people refuse to do that. But I think, or it gives me a very good feeling to know, no matter in which emotional state I might be, there is something that I can use as a guideline, like, okay, now I have to do this, and that, to keep things going. And then I can grieve, and then I can go on with the other things on the list, or I don't know.
Right.
For me, it's helpful. I can understand that people don't like to talk about death in general, but it's not only that you are left with all the emotional stuff, but you also have to face other organizational things that you need to do, and that makes it more difficult when you never talked about that before or never thought about that before.
Yeah.
Right. I have a similar I had a similar experience, but it was actually my mom who started the conversation, and that's why I don't think it's a German thing. Because well, you don't, Sue, but people out there listening know that I'm actually from Ecuador. I'm South American, and so my mom is also very Latina. But for some reason, around 5 years ago, maybe, she got the idea somewhere, and she actually already prepaid for her funeral and has everything arranged already. And when I heard that, I was also very freaked out and shocked, because I thought that is very, very morbid right now, that you have already thought about your own death and planned it. And well, not the death, but after. And her argument was also that she didn't want to leave a burden economically and financially, especially. So she just wants to take care of everything already, and also to give us that freedom to grieve properly, knowing that everything is arranged and you just have to notify a person and they will take care of everything. And that is really, it is very freeing. And nowadays, for example, with my father-in-law, he had a few surgeries recently, and he's the one who has started saying more and more, like, I just have a few years left. And he says that with deep sadness, but at the same time, it's so good that he talks about it. And I'm the only one who keeps the conversation going, because most people are, like, oh, stop talking about that and just change the subject. But I'm the one that's like, all right, and you want AC/DC played at your funeral, right? So I'll take care of that. And yeah, what else do you want to do during those years that you say that you have left, right? So I want to turn it into the positive and make it a little lighter, but I don't change the subject because I know it's important for him. It is somehow also preparing him for that moment, and it's good for him to just talk about that.
Yeah, but I think that this is like really, really amazing, especially that you said that you also asked him, like, okay, if you feel like that you just have a few years left, what are you going to do with that time? I think this is an amazing question.
Yeah. And that is also something I think we should ask ourselves every day, because, sure, our parents are, I don't know, in their late 60s, 70s, and maybe for them it's theoretically nearer, but also accidents happen, and life is never guaranteed. So I'm constantly reminding myself, I'm 35. I also need a testament. Everybody knows that I want to, I'm an organ donor, or I would want to be an organ donor. And all the things, my husband also knows all the things, that he should do with my corpse. But I think it is very important to talk about all of these things, and to go back to the starting point of this tangent. All of the big drama of the world wars and the Holocaust and all of that has never really been processed, because it has been so traumatic. And here in Germany, at least, I know that people feel such guilt and shame. And that is so deeply rooted that nobody wants to talk about that. And that doesn't make it better, because the feelings are still there. And the facts that it happened are also still there. and so it hasn't really been processed, and it's like all of our traumas, right? All our childhood traumas need to be, in my opinion, processed in therapy and healed. And as a nation or as the world, nobody has healed really from that, and it's something like still weighs heavy on our collective consciousness.
That's, yeah, and it's also very dangerous because here in Germany in school we had the topic World War II very often, also Nazi Germany, and it was always like, oh, and see what happened to the Jews, it was so awful, we need to make sure that it never happens again. And I agree with that, but I don't remember that we ever talked about how it could happen, so we wouldn't see the signs if this was about to happen again. And that's dangerous, I think, because we don't work on this trauma, as you just said.
It is something. I mean, I don't know how much you know about Hungary, but I know that there is definitely nothing good about us in the media right now, and it is. You know, it is. I don't want to make a deep dive into politics because it's very complicated, but it is weird to see that I absolutely remember that when I learned history in high school, you know, especially with someone with a punk attitude, I always said, like, how did they not see it? How could they let it happen? Why did they not do anything? And right now we live here in times where democracy isn't really real anymore. And now I see that how things like this can happen. Now I understand when people, like when my history teacher said, like, they were afraid. And I did not understand. Why were they afraid? They just had to speak out. And now, as I'm seeing just the signs of losing democracy, I understand it. I start to understand it. And that's creepy and weird. And then again, a situation where you just see that you have absolutely no control of the situation, and people think that the people actually have the control, but it is, especially when we're talking about voting, it is, of course, everyone will do their own job and everyone will go and vote, but it doesn't really matter if the half of the country has an absolutely different life situation with an absolutely different priorities, and they are not bad people. They just don't understand the world like you because, for example, they never learned another language, so they just speak Hungarian. So they just hear what they hear in the radio, what they see in the television, and of course they believe it because they have no other option to believe something else because they don't speak other languages. But they just don't speak other languages because they don't have the possibilities like I had. So it is so complicated, and you only see this when you're in that situation, and it really it is really scary. Let me tell you that. So it is, even though you see the signs and you can do nothing about it, it is scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have
absolutely
kind of, or not that extreme like in Hungary, I guess, but things over here also change because people are afraid of, I don't know, everything.
Yeah, I mean, fear is such a weird thing. Like it is. It is the same when we are talking about racism. It's just about the fear. It's just because they are afraid. Yeah. It's a human thing to be afraid, but it's such a very thin line between fear and hate that it's just too close to each other.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you have people making that fear their tool for the power that they want to.
That's what I call politics right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, selling people the illusion they can climb on the ladder of wealth when they behave in a specific way, what will never happen. And so they might vote something that is not good for them, but they think, well, if I just work hard enough, then in the end it'll be good for me if I vote for them.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds so bad, but it's really just about marketing. Like, it's unbelievable that the world works like that, but it works like that.
True.
Yeah.
do you want to add something to this topic, or shall we do a little switch?
Well, we talked about death and religion and politics. I think we had the easy topics. Now we can make something heavy.
Great. I have two questions about this, and the first one would be, how's the metal and punk scene in Hungary like?
Well, it's very different compared to Germany, because in Germany you have like separated scenes because you have separated clubs. You don't have this in Hungary. You don't have this since a very long time. We never really had, let's say, specified metal clubs, punk clubs. We don't have that because, I mean, let's start with that. Hungary is not that big. Like the cultural center of Hungary is definitely the capital city, Budapest. And the problem is that especially in the last, let's say, 5-6 years, many clubs had to close. Like all those little smaller clubs that were like serving the underground rock audience, they had to close. So right now it is super difficult here because there are just like a handful of clubs who can do concerts. We still have like the bigger venues. We still have. So, for example, if there are bigger bands, international acts, there is still like a venue where they can play. But to keep the underground scene alive, that is something very tricky right now. And also, even if you have a spot to play, it's very, very, like, not just difficult to get a time, but also it has so high costs now that it's not really underground anymore what you have to cover, if you know what I mean. So I do believe that we have, especially compared to the countryside, we have a lot of great bands, like really great bands. There is so much creativity, you know, and they are so motivated, and there are so big ambitions to, you know, to do something. And even though we are not living the best time, by far not, but I see that it's very inspiring for all the artists. So there are great bands, and there are great metal bands, great punk bands, but they don't have, you know, they separated place. So there is not really a scene building. It's much more like, maybe on one night you will see a punk band, on the next night you will see a hip hop band, you know, and then on the third night you will see a drum and bass act. So it's very, very, very mixed, which has also the positive sides, by the way, because as I said, I don't really believe in being, I don't know, like sheeps, you know, like separated from each other. I don't believe in that. But we don't really have the type of clubs and bars anymore where you just go there, doesn't matter who's going to play, because you know that your friends are going to be there, or because you know that you will see maybe a new band, but it's kind of in that genre that you like. So we don't have these anymore, and it really breaks my heart, and I really hope that this is just like something that will get better soon, because I really miss those times, you know. My problem is that it's just getting worse with the years, but I really believe that there are so many good bands out there that somehow we're going to keep it alive. But you cannot really compare it to Western Europe, because luckily we played so many shows, especially in Germany, and I know that there it's absolutely normal that even even for a small town, it is totally normal that you have like playing there also punk bands or metal bands. It can be, let's say, it is totally normal to show them to the mainstream audience, if I can say it like that. But here in Hungary, you don't have that. It is really much like those dark people. They have to go, like, we will not show them in the like, if there's a kind of city festival, you know, then no, this is something else.
Okay. Follow-up question to that. My impression is that the far more you go to the east of Europe, the less popular bands you have. Ginger is an example that you can be popular when you come from an Eastern country, but the bands that are really popular are from Central Europe, from Western Europe, or from the USA. That's my impression. Do you share this impression?
Yeah, but I think this has really good reasons. So it is. I'm always telling the same comparison when we're talking about this topic, but it's just if you want to be a band and if you want to be an active touring band in Eastern Europe, you have to work so much harder and so much more to make it happen. Just easy examples. If you want to buy a guitar, there are no Hungarian guitars that you can buy for a cheap price. It's exactly the same price that you have in Germany, or it's even higher because we have a VAT of 27%, which is way higher than anywhere else in Europe. So we have crazy prices. But at the same time, we earn in average like a quarter of what a German people earns for their work. So just with that comparison, imagine it means that you have to work 4 times more to be able to buy that guitar. And you cannot you cannot do and be a band without wanting to, or without delivering the same quality. So for example, we as a band, we are mixing our music in the US and mastering it in the US. For us, it is I know it's so unsexy to talk about it, but it's an amazing it's a huge amount of money. We have to work for it so long to be able to collect it and to be able to pay for that. And I think that's like something that people don't really see, how difficult it is to be a band, because it took very long, if it even happens, that you really make money with that, or that you just at least make as much money how much you have to pay. And especially it changed so much in the last years, because just let's say we don't have to go even so far. Let's say 5-6 years ago, it was enough that you could record an album. You know that people will buy CDs. This absolutely disappeared. People don't really buy CDs anymore. So there is one income that you don't have anymore. People stream, which is fine. Also, it has its good and its bad sides. But you will not earn that much money, or you have to be so much more well-known to earn that much money. And then there is something which is actually it makes it super difficult these days, that if you release new music, if you don't release it as a single, which means that you need a music video for it, no one will care about it, because there is just so much. There is like a tons of new music each and every day because of the streaming platforms. So to get heard and to get recognized, you have to do a music video as well. And those music videos, they cost a shitload of money. Doesn't matter where you're based and located at, So it is just very difficult to be a band, because you have to invest so much. And I'm always saying that if you just imagine, let's say, it's like if you would put a Western or an Eastern European band next to each other, and they would have to, let's say, just run and see who will arrive first at the finish. I always telling it's like the Eastern European band would have to run the double of the race till they arrive at the end. So I do believe that this is like for a lot of Eastern European people, it's just not manageable. And I also have to admit that the things that we sacrifice to do that, a lot of people would not do that because it's not normal. It is really crazy. You really have to want this. But on the other side, I also believe that because of that, the work ethic of Eastern European bands, I think it's amazing, because they know that they have to work really, really hard. They know that they have to go through the hard stuff, that is going to be difficult. And till they reach a point, they have done so much to be there, that's why I believe that people, like the music industry, likes to work with those bands, because they will not say that, oh, I will not, I don't know, enjoy that gig, because to be at that gig, they have done so much. So of course they will do, like, give 100 million% to be the best version of themselves, because they had to do so much to be on that stage. While maybe a Western European band, they just had to drive 50 kilometers and they could do it. So it's just not the same. It's not the same game that these bands have to play to be there. It is all about the economical side.
Yeah, I'm very happy that besides death and pandemic, that we also have the topic of money.
Yes, perfect.
Kiki, in the beginning of this episode, Sue said that she also does a lot of vocal styles. Maybe you want to ask your favorite question about female vocalists and vocal styles.
It is my favorite question this year, although that might change. It's actually just an observation that we have had in the past year, maybe, that especially a lot of younger female vocalists in metal have started to want to do it all.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of vocal styles. As a symphonic metal fan, I have always, or for years, I have seen women sing clean and belt and go into the operatic style as well. And now also, full scored and fry screaming. So do you think that the pressure is growing for women to be able to do it all?
Oh, I don't think there is any pressure. I don't think there is fucking freedom. It's not pressure. This is how I see it. We had, when I started singing, that was 14 years ago, there was almost no woman who dared to growl, who dared to do this, because it was, maybe it was too weird, or because no one really believed that we could do this. And then bands popped up where we saw that, oh, it is like physically we are able to do that. And also, so my personal story with screaming is that I started to learn these techniques like 4 or 5 years ago. For me, it took very long till I could. I mean, I'm still not good at it. I think I'm not good at it, but I think that I don't have to be very ashamed of it anymore to use it in our songs. It is such an awesome feeling. I love to do that. And I love to be and play the same game as men. And I love that there is no difference in it anymore. And I love that it's not stamped as, oh, that's not feminine enough. Like, oh, fuck you. This is like for me, this is absolutely a sign of freedom. I don't think that there is any pressure. I think that this is like much more like breathing and being able to do the same. So this is how I see it. I mean, for me personally, it was never any type of pressure. For me, it was curiosity that am I able to learn that? How does it feel? How can I use it in my music? And I was so happy when I could do it the first time. I was so happy when I could put it into my music the first time. And it was a relief, and it was no pressure at all. It is, so for me, it's absolutely the opposite.
That's cool.
That's great. Yeah, it's really good to hear that you have had that experience. That's really cool. Another thing that I have also observed is that as harsh vocals were even more male dominated, like metal is already pretty male dominated, but harsh vocals were even more male dominated. And I think that since more and more women have started to do it so well, there's also the growing, there might also be other factors and other reasons for it, but learning the correct techniques in order to stay healthy has become more of a priority.
Yeah.
Like we knew all of the all of the dudes just doing it just how they felt, and a lot of them got injured and had to relearn everything from the beginning, while I have the feeling that the women are a little more cautious and go towards the experimental way, but also get informed and get the right education and take care. Like I hear more and more from front to women that when they are on tour, they then also go to bed early and do the vocal rest, and maybe don't do a lot of press because you have to take care of the voice. You can't overuse it and abuse it, while male vocalists are still like we can do it all the time.
Oh my god, I have so many thoughts. You just opened a huge book. Okay, so here,
if you have time, we have time.
Here is how I see the whole topic. The whole screaming techniques are actually about airflow, which means that if there is more space, it's easier to manipulate the airflow. So actually, it should be easier to learn screaming. And it is so funny because when I started to learn screaming, I'm going to vocal coaches since 2015, like regularly. Since today, every week, every second week, I go to vocal coaches, and I went to vocal coaches who are specialized for rock music. And as I said, Hungary, still not there are so many options, and there are just very few persons who teach you screaming. And for me, like the first thing that I was very strict about is that I will not go to a male teacher because he will not understand my problems, because I have seen it so many times, just as you said, that just because of pushing, they could already vibrate their false chords, and because of that, they could do the sound. But it was not like that for me, and I know that for many female artists, it's not like that. They have to learn it. They have to understand the feelings in their throat. They have to be way more conscious about what does this feeling mean? What does this feeling mean? So it's very, I think it's more difficult for women to learn screaming technique. Actually, like the vocal coach I am visiting now, of course, also a woman. She's always telling me that I'm not right and that guys also have their difficulties, but this is just how I see it. Okay. So this is just how I see it. And
can I interrupt you for a quick second? I was just thinking when you said that, this thought came into my mind, the difference between, being able to relate to a teacher or a coach that has your or a similar physicality or physiognomy and anatomy things than you. Oh my god, that's a beautiful kitty cat. Also, big difference, and this might be a mind-blowing piece of news, but women have periods, and periods affect other parts of a lot of other parts of the body, not only the uterus. And by that, I was of course, using very heteronormative and cis-heteronormative language. But, people with uteruses have periods, and those hormones affect the whole system. And it can make, for example, I have noticed that when I brush my teeth, like my gums are swollen and stuff like that throughout, and it's a huge difference. It fluctuates throughout the cycle, so it's very natural. It makes a lot of sense that the vocal folds would also be a little more swollen, or the blood flow might be different when
it makes difference. So I can handle it and learn to handle it, for example, when it comes to shows. But when it comes to recording, there is a huge difference. Like, I get way earlier tired. My voice gets way earlier tired if I'm on my period. So that's, as you just said, there is a huge difference. And I wouldn't have my problem to talk about this with a male teacher. I just don't think that he would have
understands
Well,
that
he
yeah.
could tell me any like useful advice, because how
Yeah.
could
Right.
he, you know? But
Right.
yeah, it is. You know, I always felt like that we really need to support each other in the music industry. So that was for me an absolutely clear situation that I want to go to a female teacher. Whenever we as a Health Freaks play, for example, a show in our hometown, and we can of course decide who our support band is going to be, I always really take care about it that I want to have a support band where there is at least another female in the band. So I really do believe that this support is important, because no one else will do it if we don't do it, you know. I mean, that's just the natural way. And it also feels way more natural for me to talk about problems like this with a vocal teacher, because when you are with a vocal teacher, so many things change because of your mental state. It counts so much, like what's going on in your head. And I just can be way more open when we are talking with another woman. And it's not, I mean, of course, no, it is not the, how can I say that? So I'm not pointing my fingers on like male teachers, because of course they cannot do about it. But I just feel more understood if I go to a female teacher, and if I tell them that, okay, I try to open it, I try to do the airflow, but there is just no space. or I mean, also, for example, my biggest trouble in singing is that I have I can go super high, but I have troubles with going low, you know. And I know that a male teacher, they have the opposite problem, mainly the opposite problem. So yeah, that's why I went to female teachers.
Now we also
Makes
had
sense.
the aspect of feminism. I think now we had it all, and we can finish this episode.
This is a great episode. I love it.
Wait, I think I'm sorry, but there is like one very important topic we haven't talked about, and that's cats. I always talk about cats in my interviews, and I heard that Kiki is into cats too. So tell
me too. Yeah.
Yes, I have.
You have two. How many cats do you have, Pia? Do you have cats?
Yes, also two. And we have. I live on what is it in English? On a farm, and we also have cats outside that we feed, and they take care of the mice for us.
Oh.
That's very
well,
nice.
that's the natural way. So, yeah.
How many cats do you have, Sue?
I have 4 cats.
We just saw one for the people just listening. We saw a black and white kitty cat. Prancing around. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I have actually 2 of my cats are from Germany. They were nice. German street cats. Now they are Hungarian house cats. Yeah, but I'm always telling my husband that I hope that in my next life I'm going to be a cat, with living with him together, because they have such a great life.
Cool. So then, where can people find maybe pictures and videos of your cats and also of your band?
Well, actually, that sounds really bad. I don't want to say I'm using my cats, but time to time I'm using my cats for making announcement videos for the band. And then I often hold one cat in my lap, because I know that people just stop by to watch the cats. So they are a quite active part of the band, to be honest. And I think like we are really active now on Instagram. Still active on Facebook, but I know it's going to get the old people platform, and seems like I'm an old person too. So. And yeah, we also try to do like stuff on TikTok, but we're not at this point. We're not very good with that, but we try to.
Perfect. Kiki, where can people find the Bleeding Metal podcast?
You can subscribe to the Bleeding Metal podcast on iTunes or follow us on Spotify and everywhere where you're listening now, where you listen to your favorite podcasts. Of course, also on Instagram at Bleeding Metal Pod. If you're already following, then you saw some of the adventures, more like the first concert of the year that I went to. It was Callejon supported by As Everything Unfolds. That was just last weekend, and the interview that we recorded at the beginning of the month with Charlie just came out a few days ago. I'm time traveling here. Yeah, but we're recording today on May 25th. And the episode will be out in a few weeks. Sue, do you have any gigs coming up?
Well, let me check. Our next gig is going to be in Germany at Störfaktor Festival in Zwickau. So nice. Come and check us out.
Yes, we will link all of that in the description of the episode, of course. And yes, thank you so much for your time, Sue. Thanks everybody out there for listening. Thank you, Pia.
Thank you so much. It was really fun. Really, really intense.
Yes. That's how we like our episodes. Deep and dark.
Pitch black sunsets. So people, check Sue's music out. Pitch Black Sunset, the album is out since April 14th. The band is called the HELLFREAKS, and thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.